Hello, Meoni here, and welcome back to another episode of my Tea Time. This is where I get to sit down with you guys and literally talk to you as if you're in the same room as me. Now, this one is a bit of a sort of emotional sort of video, really, but at the same time, kind of fueled by several different emotions at the same time. Let me explain. So, firstly, Final Fantasy VII Remake. You may notice that my channel was pretty much retrofitted for the last 2 weeks just to primarily pump out the playthrough of that game. And whilst I personally think the game is a fantastic masterpiece, and we're not going to go into spoilers here, don't worry, there have been quite some interesting repercussions. Now, obviously, the game had an embargo of April the 10th, which was its actual release date. And of course, everybody that I know, or at least the people in my circle that abide by these rules, did abide by them, including myself, and, I didn't actually gain access to the game until the 10th anyway. Well, actually, I gained access to it a couple of days before, but I didn't get to play it until then anyway. I was too preoccupied with other things. So when it came to April the 10th, I started to record my playthrough. I didn't post videos until like the day after, and essentially we've gone all the way through. Now, it's taken me 2 weeks to get through that playthrough. It's the 23rd of April currently. And the first thing I see when I get onto, I'll go on to Final Fantasy XIV today, and I'm like, I'm going to make a few housing videos. I'm going to chill out and relax and, do all the things I usually would and record all of the things that I was planning to do today. And then I started to notice something whilst I was rendering the first video. Basically, it turns out that yesterday onwards, there seems to be some rumors going around of people getting copyright strikes and infringement sort of notices, even an account termination, whether or not this is directly, representative of the content they uploaded or not. It's quite worrying because currently there's a few articles, which I'm not going to link because they could be completely, trying to prey on people's worries and fears, that Square Enix may or may not, I cannot confirm at this point, be outsourcing a legal team to track down people who upload the ending of Final Fantasy VII Remake. Now, this is quite an interesting thing. I also got a comment in the comment section of my last video, the ending of Final Fantasy VII Remake, which we're not going to talk about here, obviously, but there's been some significant changes from the original source material, and it makes sense that those things are spoiler-filled, and you should probably not upload a video like that without having a very substandard thumbnail, and obviously your title should be something basic. This is something we all agreed to when we signed a user agreement by uploading videos to it. Like by de facto, as soon as you upload videos on a certain topic or a certain game, you go by their material usage license policy. Now, basically, what it involves is not showing stuff too spoilery. They have their own team. They said themselves in part of that material license policy thing, essentially, that we'll be looking at people case by case and essentially taking down videos depending on the content of the thumbnails, the titles, stuff like that. So the thing that's really interesting to me is I refuse to put any spoilers in any of my thumbnails. Now, if you look at the thumbnails of my Final Fantasy VII playthrough, you'll note that all of these are generic shots of characters, the main characters. Not once have I even shown a character that's not part of your party. Not once have I shown a character that's a spoiler in particular. And so far, there's been no strikes on my channel, right, for Final Fantasy VII. We had a slight copyright infringement notice for one of the episodes because one of the pieces of music, monetization was shared between myself and Square Enix on that episode, and I didn't have to take further action. That's fine by me. If they want to flag up a piece of music, then obviously it's going to play in its entirety during a playthrough. It's, it's still fair use, but at the same time, I'm fine with that split monetary thing because the playthrough isn't making any money anyway, right? That wasn't the reason I uploaded it. The reason I uploaded the playthrough of Final Fantasy VII Remake is so that I had somewhere to upload it. I could share my experiences throughout it, and I'd never done a full playthrough of a game before on YouTube. This is something that I've always wanted to do. I've attempted to do a couple of times before, and then I've bottled out after the first or second episode. It is an incredible amount of work, and stuff that I've learned from this experience has really explained to me why it's not something that I could do on a daily, and why my channel is better suited to the sort of stuff that I usually do. And that's not out of fear of doing something new, but mostly due to the fact that it's a different audience. The way the algorithm works goes against me doing stuff like that. And also the amount of effort required to upload massive videos like I did. Now, it's a 20-part series. One of or two of the episodes is nearly 4 hours long in places. And the ending is essentially more than just one chapter in my video anyway. I uploaded episode 20 with essentially most of the latter half of the game. Not latter half, but latter like 10th of the game. A lot longer than a lot of other people's videos that are out there. Mostly just because I didn't want to keep chopping this up. Because that's not something I wanted to do anyway. I wanted to just upload massive sections of my playthrough and just let people experience it how I would. So there's very little editing, there's very little control, there's pretty much no backseating because I wasn't able to live stream it, and the episodes are so large that I wasn't able to read as much feedback as was necessary. This is all primarily due to limitations on network capacity and my availability to actually go and use faster internet, which involves me getting in the car and going and uploading, which currently is something that is a bit of a catch-22, because if a policeman decided to stop me and say, "Why are you out?" I wouldn't really have much of an answer other than I am essentially going to work. I'm not leaving my car. I am uploading videos. But at the same time, I don't think you're really supposed to do that. So I was limited by my availability to sort of sneak out a little bit. But, I exercised all of the things, the social distancing. I stayed within my car, and it was off a back street somewhere, and it had a 4G signal, and I uploaded. But anyway, we're getting off the topic. So I see some, whether or not these are legit or not, we'll find out, essentially, of people reporting that if you upload the ending of Final Fantasy VII Remake, that you may get a copyright strike, or you might actually lose your channel. Now, I won't mention the names of these people because obviously this is something you can research yourself, and I don't really want to be associated or disassociated with this information if it turns out to be completely false. That's not, I'm not going into this saying, "Oh, people are getting banned," because nobody knows. That's the fearful thing about this. And so far, I've not had any responses to my queries about this to Square Enix themselves. Now, obviously, that could be due to the fact that it's awkward times and, it's pretty much just YouTube bots doing all of the work. But it is quite a fearful situation. If people are getting banned for essentially post-embargo uploading the ending to a Final Fantasy VII playthrough for the remake, there are many channels that I see currently that have way more viewership for stuff like that, Let's Plays, for example, and their videos are up there. Are they essentially, and are we all risking our entire YouTube account, our many years of service, let's say, of uploading and creating content? Are we risking all of that just to essentially show the ending of a game? Because honestly, if it comes down to it at the end of the day, I would just press the delete button on all 20 episodes. I think there's over 34 hours or something of playthrough on my channel for that game. And I would just press delete on it. If there was any chance that I could get my account removed from me, that it could get copyright strike to oblivion, I would just press the delete button. So I'm hovering over that button, and I'm really, really scared. Honestly, I'm being completely honest with you. I am fearful for my coverage, simply because the lack of communication is alarming. Now, the original material usage policy I read to the letter to some effect, but there are some sections that I didn't adhere to, and I don't think anybody really did. There are sections of the gameplay that is naturally blocked for recording and streaming, essentially, close to the ending, and pretty much every playthrough I've also, watched of that segment to check, including my own. We're using capture cards. We just let it go. They're quite important segments. So I really want to know if this is damage control on Square Enix's side, because they may or may not have got some negative reviews towards the ending of the game, or are they trying to preserve it to the point where it makes no sense anymore? I'm laterally speaking, I don't understand the difference between one person's upload and another. We already have people, breaking down the endings, discussing the endings, having spoiler-filled discussions. So what constitutes the violation that doesn't really specifically say anything? Like, the only thing I can think of is those scenes where the gameplay is supposed to be blocked and those are uploaded. Everybody I know that's uploaded footage uses a capture card because it's superior than obviously streaming from a PlayStation half of the time. 90% of the time. So how do we go about A, understanding what the limitations of that are, and B, if any of this is real, if the community team behind Final Fantasy VII is, or at least the PR department at this point, is not directly replying to some of these comments. Now, obviously, they're not obliged to do so, but at the same time, it would be nice to have a public declaration on their stance, so I know whether or not to press the delete button. I have all the utmost respect for Square Enix, okay? Where people have given them crap in the past, I've tried to be a little bit more boyish than I probably should have been, but at the same time, I've always been quite critical of decisions and things that have happened with my main game, which is Final Fantasy XIV. And so have you guys, and you've supported me along the way for that. But have I risked everything by uploading Final Fantasy VII as a playthrough rather than just an impressions video? That's my question. Have I wasted my time? Well, monetarily, yes. And channel growth-wise, I've lost subscribers due to people saying that they didn't expect this video or these videos to be in their sub box. Thank you for spoiling the game, yet it clearly is a playthrough that, has no spoiler imagery on the thumbnail. The titles are just part such and such, Final Fantasy VII Remake. There's no mention of what's happening in any of those titles, aside from one where I say it's a side quest episode, but that's not really a spoiler, is it, saying there's side quests? I don't know, maybe it is. I don't know anymore. 2020 is absolutely nuts for content creation, and honestly, as much as my decision to do this was probably very foolish, and I've made a massive mistake monetarily, I have Patreon to back me up. It's not quite as bad as it could have been. I'm still going to be able to slightly scrape by, just about pay my bills. Every Patreon is essentially allowing me to live and eat right now, just so you understand that. YouTube is paying absolutely nothing, and obviously the viewership is going to be down on a channel that mostly focuses around 14, because the algorithm doesn't push my playthrough to other people, which is fine. I knew this was going to happen, but it's crushing to me to have the idea in the back of my head that people may be getting their content removed, that all of their years of service might be for nothing just for uploading a playthrough. Now, there are some people in the 14 community who have not uploaded their playthroughs. In fact, I don't think many people have, because it's not their thing. But they've streamed it on Twitch, right? Everybody that I know, Mr. Happy, for example, other people in our community, great people, have all streamed Final Fantasy VII Remake in its entirety and had live reactions. Essentially, they are it would be the same violation, right? I really, really, really don't think deep down that any of this is a legit thing. Like, they would ban people and terminate accounts on anything other than spoiler imagery and probably titles. A lot of people use clickbait titles, probably mentioning, oh, such and such dies here or whatever, right? Or such and such, becomes amazing here, insert spoiler tag here. That's what you would have in the title. If you mention stuff like that, or, oh yeah, Dumbledore dies, then obviously that's going to be reason enough for you to be probably struck to eternity, because it violates their thing where they didn't want people to talk about spoilers in attacks. If you had a picture of a character that was, being stabbed in the face, then that would kind of constitute towards a spoiler. But just a picture of Cloud looking at the sky, or like Tifa looking at the sky, or Aerith looking at the sky, or whatever, doesn't really constitute towards that. So I'm feeling that I should be safe. But at the same time, who knows at the end of the day? How does this whole thing work? So yeah, it's something I wanted to talk about and get off my chest, because honestly, it's a very, very worrying time. Have I completely screwed my channel? I'm not sure. This was a complete experiment on my basis. I'm going to be returning to 14 videos. That is the main goal of my channel. I want to share my love in this game, but I wanted to share my love across a bunch of games. I've learned now that impression videos work for me, but Let's Plays do not, okay? Which is fine by me. Until I can live stream, that's the way it's going to be. And hopefully in the future, I can live stream stuff like that. And, that's how we'll do Let's Plays in the future. But I want to get back to my 14 content. But have I already pushed the boat out too much? How many of you are going to be returning when you see that I'm uploading 14 content? How many people are going to resub? I had quite threatening messages in comment sections, if you go back. People saying, oh, I'm unsubbing until you get back to 14, or thanks for nothing, essentially. Making me feel real trash at the end of the day. But all I did was share my experiences, share my passion for gaming as a whole. But I can't physically do that on this platform, it feels. And I feel like I'm being punished for just doing something different. At the end of the day, I thought this was my channel and my creations, or my in my influence towards playing a certain game would be quite a warm reception. But for the most part, if it's not a 14 video, you might as well not have it uploaded. And now I'm even more worried, because the stuff I have uploaded might be quite dangerous for the channel as well. I'm sailing every day as it comes, right? We don't know if there's going to be a waterfall over the next ridge. I have no idea. I can't see that far ahead. I know that my ship will hit rocky ground, but this is quite dangerous ground, and it petrifies me, to be quite honest with you. I'm being as candid with you as I physically can today, and I'm trying to keep a positive mental attitude and upload videos that I want to create and what I think people would like to see. And hopefully the few people who did watch the 7 playthrough did enjoy it. But yeah, if anybody has any like hardcore information on people being banned and stuff, comment below, let me know whether or not I should completely delete my playthrough. There's not really many other options. There's no way I can just switch that to private, because it still essentially had views on it. It's still, if there is something that in their eyes violates their policy, it's going to have violated their policy anyway. So it's not like I can just get rid of the evidence now. But I could delete it, and then in theory, no one could challenge it. But I don't know. It doesn't make me money. It doesn't give me happiness. Is it worth, continuing with that stuff? So, well, it does give me happiness, right? It gives me happiness of seeing people react to the things I do on this on it, as if it was a live stream. But it doesn't give me any kind of success from it. There's no growth. There's no money from it. I just uploaded it because I wanted to. And that's how usually I do all of my content, even for 14. The side effect of 14 stuff is that I've done it for so long that the algorithm allows me to get more viewers. And conversely, I could, somewhat make some amount of money from it to help me scrape by in real life. And it's been really lovely, and people on Patreon have supported me. But yeah, I'm in a bit of a situation at the minute, and I've got to try and stay positive where I can. But I think honesty is the best recourse, and the people who do actually watch Tea Time with Meoni, those regulars, hopefully have their own insight on this, and whether or not they've heard more information on this, because we're in a bit of an information vacuum at the minute. The communication is very low between especially developers, PR people, and you know, customers and streamers and content creators like myself. It's a weird situation, dude. The last time I saw a situation like this was when I first started making Final Fantasy XIV videos. Back when that game was just out of open beta. We had open beta footage, and we were told that we could, like, upload that stuff, and then it was copyright striked. Essentially, everybody I know that does 14 videos today, basically all of the big names, were making content when that game was in open beta and just on release, and not a single one of them avoided a copyright infringement. Okay, Square Enix had this gung-ho attitude of attacking people for uploading their experiences on the game, and they quickly retroactively, you know, turned the tables and changed their policy, and, you know, the whole allowance for it to be monetized and uploaded was given, and that was fantastic. You know, it was a little bit of archaic thinking, I think, in my opinion, you know, based on what you can do of other Western games and Western published content. It was a very Nintendo attitude, if you remember. Nintendo used to have the same agreement where you couldn't upload anything Nintendo first party related onto YouTube, which has since changed, and now you can do playthroughs on that stuff and videos, because their material usage license policy has realized that people actually playing and uploading their videos, you know, their games into videos and playthroughs and impressions and reviews actually works as pretty good advertising. You know, who'd have thought? So the same thing should apply for games like Final Fantasy VII. If there are people like myself who absolutely adored the game, who loved it every second, uploading their experiences, surely that's going to be worth more to them than anything else. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Again, there's no confirmation whether or not they are actually doing this stuff or not. It's just all rumors, circulation, and no official stance being posted or replies, which, yeah, is alarming, to say the least. Yeah, I pretty much wanted to share that mostly with you today because, yeah, as you can tell, it's weird, dude. It's weird. Anyway, let's stop talking about that and start talking about some other things that are slightly more interesting, I guess. We're currently working on E7S in my raid team. In Final Fantasy XIV, we do raids every week, twice a week. And we finished E6S, as people saw in a previous video that I uploaded with music, that some people liked the music and some people didn't. I don't really care. It was how I wanted to do it, and it was uploaded, and some people liked it, some people didn't, but we cleared that and we're working on more content in the game. So I'm loving 14 on the side, basically, or raiding and things like that, but it's still my go-to experience of just chilling out, relaxing with friends, and, you know, there's a certain amount of communication that you can get from Final Fantasy XIV that you just simply can't get in the real world right now, and I think that's quite an integral point when it comes to gaming. A lot of people have given gaming stick over the years, but who's laughing now? Yeah, who's the people talking to all of the friends they ever had anyway, like they did every other day? You know, I don't have that many real life friends. I'm a bit of a shut-in. It's not a lie. I'm not afraid to say that. I'm not ashamed to say that. You know, the majority of my friends are people I've met online, and I couldn't be happier for it. There are much less confusions to be had. People are not taken at face value. People can be, you know, communicated with as you wish to. And really, there's a certain amount of anonymity as well. There are certain things that perhaps you don't want everybody to know, and you don't have to mention them. It never crops up. People, how they look isn't questioned. I just talk to people, and you know, it's a fantastic medium. And obviously Discord helps with that, and, you know, other things that we already used. And it's nice to see that companies are making adjustments to make it so that people have more bandwidth to live stream on Discord and other services and talk to people. And it's really good, man. I think gaming as a whole has brought people more together than anything else, and especially at times like this. So I hope that you're keeping safe. We have our own Discord. It is a publicly accessible Discord. Primarily just my fan Discord, though. We do have an FC as well built into that, and a static and stuff like that. But primarily it's for viewers to come and hang out and chat and share memes and things. That is always linked in the description of Tea Time videos. In fact, every video I've done, because I've changed the presets when I upload a video, it should have that Discord link. Now, going on there, essentially, you can just assign yourself a viewer rank in the role selection thing. And from there, there's lots of people to talk to, and I'm always welcoming of new people. It's lovely. I don't get to hang out with people as much as I'd like to, because obviously I'll be recording or uploading or busy or raiding or whatever, but occasionally I'll drop into the open voice channels, the public ones, and hang out with people, and it's been quite nice, really. Especially, again, during these sorts of times, it's nice to hear people's stories and, you know, probably distract away from things with some stupid humor and some lewd images here and there and jokes and things like that, which is what we're all about. We're not stuck up, we're not super serious, but at the same time, we have our own set little section of rules. But yeah, people of all ages, not rages, all rages. They're all angry. No, they're not all angry. Of all ages, nationalities, backgrounds, you name it, we're all just congregating, talking about our passion for video games, specifically 14 sometimes, and going from there. But it's been heartwarming to talk to some of you, especially some of the people who have been affected by this crap happening in real life. It really sucks, dude. I'm not enjoying some of the stories, but at the same time, it does make you think that, you know, maybe once this is all over, we could get together at FanFest and have a nice drink together. That would be probably the best thing. I hope that FanFest still goes ahead. It's the only thing that's like on the horizon that's shining that I'm looking forward to at the minute. Yeah, you don't need me to tell you how crap the world is right now and how we're trying to avoid it. Much more than usual, I would wager. I mean, I try to avoid it at the best of times, but during a crisis like this, I'm even more doubly so shut in, basically. But yeah, hopefully we can get back to doing more 14-related stuff that gets warmly received. I do know that the live letters coming up, amongst other things, 5.3 previews. Development side for Final Fantasy XIV is a little bit low at the moment. Admittedly, you know, it's kind of obvious why that is. We did a couple of videos talking about that as well, but understandably, it's a very dangerous time, and you don't want your favorite developers, publishers, or anyone in the industry, or indeed anyone really, to be affected by this in the slightest. If there's a risk that people could be affected negatively, or we could lose anyone that's, you know, I was going to say anyone important, but everybody is important, right? Every single last person. If there's a risk of that, then put it on hold. We have a perfectly good MMO to play. It's a premium game that you pay a subscription for, and for that subscription, you get access to hundreds upon hundreds of hours of content. If it's stuff that you've always wanted to do, be that leveling your classes, or, you know, finishing off some of your jobs, doing the Ishgard restoration, getting all your relic weapons, going back and doing the old ones. I know that a few of my FC members have been doing that. There's New Game Plus, admittedly has some of the worst rewards ever, as in they have no rewards, which is unfortunate. No achievements, nothing. If you want to do New Game Plus and catch up with some bits of a story you might be rusty with, then that's always a good option. I know that there's talk about how Crystal Tower will be even more used in the future for going forward. That was posted, I think, on Live Door. There was like an interview at some point with somebody to do with 14, how they mentioned that Crystal Tower will be pretty much a mandatory storyline for everything going forward, and how important it is. So whether or not we'll be time traveling or going between different worlds, who knows at this point. But it's exciting, isn't it? It's very exciting to see little glimpses of things on the horizon. And yeah, I'm personally looking forward to the Eureka style content, inverted commas, end quote, from the Square Enix 5.2 onwards site, and all of the information we've seen on, what is it, 5.35? I think it's 5.35. We should see the first instance of that. Very hyped for that. I quite liked Eureka, which is an unpopular opinion. A lot of people hated it. They still hate it. And some people hate me for liking it, which, you know, is fair, I suppose, at the end of the day. If you're going to hate someone for something, you might as well hate them for having an opinion. That's how it is, right? That's how YouTube works. That's how viewership works. Yeah, I'm really looking forward, really. I just want this whole thing to be over, for us to sit down, have a nice cup of tea, and relax. Put our feet up, and then as soon as it's over, we can go out there, go crazy, and then come straight back indoors again because it'll be way too hot outside, and we'll just be playing video games anyway, which is pretty much all I did. Oh, the only thing changed in my life is the availability to upload more frequently due to using my phone and having to go out and upload that way. And also, like, the occasional visit to a shop. I do like shopping. I can't wait to go back into some, like, anime stores and places like that and game stores and see what merch they've got in. That's one of my little passions. I don't necessarily buy stuff, but I like looking around physically, like eyeing things up, window shopping, that sort of stuff. But not able to do any of that, are we? Which is a real shame. So one day we'll get to do that again. But it's more important for people to be alive. I heard recently that somebody in America, some person, I have no idea what title they have, some higher up in the American government, for some reason said that, what was the exact quote? I can't remember. But essentially, you know, the economy is more important than living, I think was the roundabout quote. And I couldn't believe it when I read that. I was like, really? You heartless bastard. You know, like, how can you say that? How can you possibly put the economy before human lives? But then I remember that there are corporations like Shinra that are based on those people, and the world wouldn't have quite as amazing storylines if it wasn't for those characters in real life existing. You know, we wouldn't have an empire without Germany and Austria, would we? You know, in certain periods of time and influences across time and space. There are some positives to have from some negatives, but that guy who said that, what an asshole. What an absolute asshole. Let's be honest. Political views aside, what an asshole. I don't care what his or her political views were. I don't get involved in politics. But if you're going to put the economy before people and force them to die, essentially, just to increase a figure, then you are pretty much scum in my book. At the end of the day, there's no way of going around that. You are just the lowest life form on this planet. Lower than amoebas. Yeah, you're doing disservice to amoebas if you put them higher than that. Yeah, they're complete scum. But yeah, aside from that, we do actually have some questions. I asked people to ask me some questions for this next tea time. So let's get through those and see what people have to say. All right, so our first question comes from Moody Moogle on YouTube comments. And he says, question, we never got a new healer this expansion, so it's possible that we'll see it in the next expansion. I agree. What healer would you like to see added to the game, and how would you like it to be played? Not just a Final Fantasy-based healer, but what type of healer you'd like to see. Love your videos. Just a nice calming tone to them all, which is always nice. Thank you kindly for the little compliment. That was nice. I've answered this before, but honestly, I can't remember what I originally said. I think most people wanted Geomancer, or at least like a version of that. And then immediately people say, no, actually, Geomancer is already in the game. It's just essentially White Mage or whatever, Astrologian. It's a different way of looking at things. Yeah, okay. But anything really new would be exciting at this point. I mean, I toyed with the idea before on I think a tea time or a video before where we talked about this, talking about the idea of a melee healer and how that would work. Well, essentially a little bit like a dancer, but then Dancer came out and that's sort of kind of like your support DPS, which sort of filled that role because it's both sort of, well, it's not really melee. Kind of like a red magey stuff. So maybe we have a healer, a little bit like a red mage. You jump in, do some like AoE heals that you can only use in melee range and then hop out. I have no idea. I like that idea. I personally like playing red mage and support roles in general. So anything that involves something different, that's you're not just stood there casting a heal, would be exciting to me. I mean, we've got a pet healer that doesn't really work anymore because they've lost all of their sort of synergy that they had, or any sort of differences that the fairies had. I mean, Scholar is fantastic, don't get me wrong. I like being in a party with a Scholar and out healing them with my white mage. Now, jokes aside, they're really good. But they have lost a lot, haven't they, Scholars? It does feel like the homogenization between the two fairies has taken a lot away. You could say the same about Astro, though. A lot of the cards feel the same now. There's a lot of just streamlining that's made the game a little bit dull in places on the healer side. White Mage has always been the powerhouse that just blasts people with big heals. So I think really what we're looking for a new healer, as opposed to fixing the ones that we currently have to feel more engaging and enjoyable and bring back some of the things that made them unique. In addition to that, I think maybe something just completely off the wall. The idea of a melee healer, I'm not sure how that would work. Kind of like a red mage dancery type person. Maybe you hit people in the face with a massive bell. Like a big gong bell, like dong across the head. And it gives them a buff. I'm not sure what I'm going with there. I was just thinking of like a geomancer smacking someone in the face with a bell. That would be quite fun. I'm not sure how that relates to being a healer, but yeah, maybe you could sort of heal with pain, like a pain healer. I'm not even sure where I'm going with that one. Yeah, it's just something different, right? Seriously speaking, for a few seconds if I can. Just something that involves you not standing still. So the only game I can think of to compare with is like World of Warcraft, for example. I wouldn't mind like a resto shaman. Those are fun, putting down totems and having chain heal and having people in a line so that you can, maybe something like that. So you have people bunched together and you can affect people based on where they're stood with totems or healing that affects multiple people in a row, or maybe like a target-based healer. So you actually have to aim heals and stuff. More reticles, maybe that's a bad idea because they'll be mostly off global, won't they? I don't know. Something different. I think everybody's looking for that different sort of tick, aren't they? It could be surprising what they put in, but they could also be kind of boring and go with something like Chemist. I know a lot of people have been saying Chemist is such a good idea, and like somebody who just does like triage and things like that. It would be kind of boring to me, personally. Like a healer that just heals with bandages and stuff and like triage. Yeah, I mean, how many spell effects are you going to get out of that, really? I mean, I don't know. I could be completely wrong. It could be amazing, that idea. Geomancer, I think, as everybody has mentioned, and I doubt we're going to get Geomancer as a healer. A time-based healer, I think I mentioned that in the past. A few other people have as well, where you reverse people's wounds, but then somebody mentioned that's basically an astrologian, kinda, because they have that time acceleration and all that jazz. I don't know, maybe that could... Imagine if they put Time Mage into the game and it was a healer. Oof. All of the saltiness would be... it'd be saltier than when they put Blue Mage in as a limited job. Maybe it's too soon for that comment. I don't know. Ooh, Blue Mage. Ooh, that's the tip of the iceberg, isn't it? The trigger warning for people is saying Blue Mage, isn't it? Really, in all fairness, yeah. Thank you kindly for your question, Moody Moogle. But my answer would be anything different that isn't just somebody who stands there and heals. Maybe something that involves more damage to increase their healing. Really go with that synergy that Yoshi P's so afraid of people actually doing damage as a healer. Maybe actually give them healing buffs for doing certain amounts of damage. That would be pretty fun gameplay. Ooh, I'm sure some people in the community would be pretty much alienated and hatred filled with that decision. So I don't know. Any way you go, you're going to disappoint somebody, right? that's how it is. That's the nature of opinions and people as individuals. So hopefully they do something that they want to create and they want to design and they want to put in, instead of listening too much to feedback, because otherwise we get stuff like Hrothgar, right, with no female alternative and hair that's trapped behind Fantasia purchases, which does admittedly really suck. So the second question then is from Nidra, or Nidra. I think we agreed on Nidra originally. She's she didn't know herself when I asked her. She is a Patreon supporter, a long-time supporter of the channel. And her question is, do you have any big dream goal of something you might want to do on your channel? Like a specific game or on a specific console or a collaboration? Just something in terms of content that is on your bucket list of, yes, if I can make this, that would be the best thing to happen for me. That is an interesting line of questioning. I think really the answer will come down to, several different answers really. Things I would like to do on my channel, big dreams. An interview with Yoshi P. An actual interview. Or just even like not a live interview. Maybe just send in some questions and actually get them answered by the man himself. Get them brought back to me and we do a video like that. I know a few other YouTubers have done literally the same thing, but to me, that would be one of the highlights of my career, I think, to have acknowledgement to the point where I can ask questions directly to the dude, in question and have him reply. That would be nice. As to what questions I would ask him, that would be tricky, right? Because most of the things I would ask, he might not have an answer to. And I don't want to be one of those interviewers where you ask a question and it's just like, we'll wait and see. We'll wait and see. We'll wait and see is the answer, because that's always all we ever really get. I don't know. Probably not law questions, though, because I think he would just reiterate that he doesn't really have much to do with that side. I don't know. That would be a highlight, though, to have some sort of questions. If it was close to an expansion, and I could get some answers on that, some nice juicy answers to things, maybe some exclusives. I think everybody who is even remotely got a journalistic bone in their body, which I barely have, has a hankering for getting an interview with somebody as prestigious and as well known as Naoki Yoshida. So that would be nice. Or Masayoshi Soken, I would love to quiz him about his, inspirations and the stuff that goes into each of his songs, and copyright permitting or licensing permitting, where he could mention his direct influences with certain riffs, because some of them are more obvious than others, and it would be nice to have some answers to that he probably couldn't answer. But yeah, it would be nice to see just some direct information from the horse's mouth, so to speak, and I would love to be the person to ask those questions. I always put my hand up if it's like at FanFest, the first FanFest I was able to go to the previous time, I put my hand up in the press conference. I was able to go in there. It was fantastic. But unfortunately, I didn't get selected. So I'm going to keep raising that hand, and I'm going to keep trying to maintain some kind of growth so I can actually go back to FanFest again and get into those sorts of meetings. And it would be lovely. That would be the highlight, I think. The biggest thing that I would want to achieve from that side, at least 14 related. Yeah, I would definitely go with that answer. In terms of specific games on a specific console or a collaboration, specific game, I don't really have anything too high on the list. I would like to get to the point of growth where I could make videos on other games, like Let's Plays and things, maybe even a separate channel. That might be something I think of if I ever get time to do that, but not specifically, no. I think a lot of my Final Fantasy VII Remake playthrough has taught me a few lessons on what I can and cannot achieve with my current setup, and especially my internet connection. So yeah, I think that answers a lot of that. As for collaborations, I am always open to collaborations with other YouTubers or content creators or whatever, big or small. I don't really care. I don't look at viewers. I don't look at subscriber numbers or anything like that. I would love to have a podcast, actually a proper podcast, not this, right? An actual podcast where I sit down and talk to people But I wouldn't have the same guests on every week like some of these that you see. It would be people who are just starting out making content for this game, like content creation stuff. See what made them push the button to upload. I think that would be the real highlight of a podcast like that, where you have people big and small and maybe get them on the same show. That would be fun. So you'd have, big names alongside somebody who's just pressed upload for the first time. Not only would that be beneficial for the small time guy, but at the same time, it would make the big time guy realize that, people are still starting out in this and maybe have a little bit more compassion towards their fellow contributors to this wonderful marketplace that we have in 14 content creation, which, still has a high demand, thankfully, and people are looking for more and more videos and things. So that's always good. But at the same time, it would be nice to split the load and have more fresh faces. And I think a podcast would really get to that. But most of the podcasts that I see either don't attempt to get the lower guests, or at least they only aim for the same people that can guarantee them views each month, right? So it would be nice to see those sorts of people. I mean, I don't mean all of them. People like Work to Game have had added people of massive size as well as really small YouTubers before. So there are exceptions to that rule, but I'm saying other people majoritively don't look to the smaller fish in the sea necessarily as much as they probably should, because as long as you know where your roots are, where you began, then I think as long as you can keep sight of that, then it makes it easier to communicate with people. Because, I'm not a big YouTuber. I probably never will be, but I'm not the smallest fish. So I'd like to, one day pass that on to more people to give you guys more people to watch and enjoy, because there are lots of very talented voices out there that are just waiting to be heard. And that's one thing I would love to do. But fantastic questions though, Nadra. Thank you for that. And finally, let's end on a bit of a high note. We've got a question, well, not even a question, but more of a statement that I wanted to include. I just realized I copy and pasted this into my notepad document here from Xavier. That's Xavier with a 3 instead of an E, and puts tea and coffee together, right, is actually very popular in Hong Kong, where it's called yin yang tea. What you do is you add milk and sugar into the mixture and blend it until it's silky smooth, and it's actually really tasty. Now, if you didn't know what this was referencing, I talked about in a previous tea time a bit of a horror story of my work experience days in school, where I accidentally made coffee and tea in the same cup for the lead editor of a newspaper, which didn't end too well. But it did result in me getting more work done instead of having to make teas and coffees for people, because I couldn't be trusted with that. And I was able to unlock my more creative side, and I got some stuff in the newspaper. So it kind of worked out. But yeah, tea and coffee is something that most people in England, if you said, would you like a cup of tea with coffee in it, would probably slap you across the face with a box of Tetleys, or, a dipped biscuit across the knackers. That's an image, isn't it? That would probably be their first action. And then the second action would be what the actual would be the question that follows. But yeah, yin yang tea. You see, I like the idea of trying that, but knowing that, I don't know, maybe it's, what's stronger? Is the coffee stronger in that taste, or is the tea stronger in that taste? Because if the coffee's stronger, then it's just going to taste like tangy coffee, right? And if the tea's stronger, then it's going to taste like a really nice tea with this weird sort of caffeine hit at the end. Don't know. I suppose I can't knock it till I try it. I'm definitely up for trying some yin yang tea, but I can probably imagine it's just like a really milky, sugary coffee with like slight essence of tea in it. Don't know. Say Hong Kong. The Asian market loves their tea, right? Although there's this weird thing that I was told a few years ago, that the way that Western people drink tea, or at least English people, is we have an entire tea bag and we put it in a cup and we fill the cup with water, and then we let it stew for a bit and take the tea bag out and throw the tea bag away. And someone said to me that that's actually sacrilegious. Like, how can you do that? How can you drink it that strong? We only have like a tiniest amount of tea with the water, and we don't have milk and sugar, stuff like that. And someone said, like, it's terrible to think of how much tea you're wasting in each bag. And they would like brew a massive pot with one tea bag, and it would last them forever. I can't imagine that, because as soon as you lose the first taste of tea, like that strong taste, it's just going to be wazzy water, isn't it? I don't know. Maybe it's just the inner British person coming out there, but I like my tea strong, like I like my women. That makes absolutely no sense. But yeah, thank you for that, Xavier. I thought I'd include a nice little humorous comment to sort of lighten the mood, but yeah, tea, coffee. Ugh, gives me shudders thinking about it again, but at the same time, got to keep an open mind. It might be delicious. Who knows? One day, if I ever get to travel a bit more again, I'd love to go to Hong Kong and maybe try this tea out. Maybe you could even buy me a tea. How about that? But until then, I will be re-uploading. I'll be uploading more 14 content going forwards. I'm finally back to playing Final Fantasy 14 in more of its entirety. I'll keep you up to date as to what happens with Final Fantasy 7 Remake and whatever the heck's going to happen with that. If suddenly the playlist disappears and the videos disappear off the face of the planet, you know why. But at the same time, I'm just going to plod on, do what I do best, annoy you guys with tea time videos and housing videos and glamour and the rest of it. I've got some interesting stuff lined up. Obviously, Fashion Report Friday is tomorrow at the time of recording, so stay tuned for that. So yeah, enjoy the rest of your week. Stay safe wherever you are, please. Stay indoors where possible. Goes without saying. Try out some tea and coffee. Let me know what you think in the comment section. That's your homework. Just, yeah, let me know if you throw up or not. And I'll see you all next time. See you later.